Hi guys, it's Casey here at Colonial Gardens, a garden center in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. It is late August and I am out in our Monarch Waystation with another native plant. This is blue mistflower and it has been reclassified a couple times in its scientific classification. It used to be in Eupatorium, now it's in Conoclinium. And that's going to be most of the Latin you're going to get from me today because I'm sure I'm pronouncing both of those incorrectly. This is a native plant from the East Coast all the way to the central US, and it does go down south as well, but it is native here in Pennsylvania, and it is a late summer, early fall bloomer. And you can see it's got this really beautiful little fuzzy bluish purple flower on the top, little clusters of them on top of a lot of foliage. This is a plant that does best in full sun to part shade conditions, but really the key to its success is making sure that you have evenly moist soil. It really is one of those plants that you're going to find naturally in wetlands and along stream beds, and it's not very drought tolerant, so it's not something that's going to really survive a spot that dries out over the summertime. This is a plant that you're really going to try and plant along an area that stays really wet, which if you've been following our series in our Monarch Waystation, this is one of those spaces that stays really wet for us. Now, this series is called Why You Should Plant, XYZ Plant, and I really do love blue mistflower, but it needs to be put in the right spot. This plant itself was planted from a 1 or 2 gallon pot last year, and it is already massive. When it is happy, this plant is really aggressive. And I think that it's important to make a difference here between aggressive and invasive. A plant that is native to an area is not scientifically considered invasive, even if it's an aggressive spreader that colonizes areas that you were not intending for it to go to. Blue mistflower can be a plant that people consider a bit of a nuisance if it gets into an area that they weren't expecting it to. I really recommend if you want to plant this flower, you're looking for areas that you want to naturalize with native plants, and you'll be rewarded. We've had monarchs on this plant all day, lots of native bees and little fly mimics, and it is a host plant for a lot of showy moth species. So it has a lot of benefits to wildlife, but it is a plant that you want to plant selectively because you want to be happy when it spreads, not trying to remove it all the time. And so blue mistflower, gorgeous plant, can spread by rhizomes and by seed, and you should plant it if you want an area where you're adding a lot of native plants to really have benefits to wildlife. If you are watching this video and you're a little disappointed that maybe you don't have a good garden setting for this plant, I want to direct you to maybe an alternative depending on how you feel about planting annuals. So Lindsay's going to pan over to its neighbor. You might think this is the same plant because it looks very, very similar. This is Ageratum, and blue mistflower is sometimes also called hardy Ageratum, but they are not in the same genus. They're not that closely related. They're different plants, and this one is native to Central America. So it is not a plant that survives our winters here. But it is one of our favorites as a staff. This is the Blue Horizon variety of Ageratum, which gets up to 30 inches tall. So it's about the same height as the blue mistflower, and it's got a very similar presence with that blue fuzzy topped flower. We also see that our pollinators really enjoy this plant. It is one that we see lots of bees on. The monarchs have been going to. As Lindsay said, maybe they know that they look fabulous against this beautiful color flower. That orange was really striking against it. And they're a really long bloomer, so they will bloom from the time that we hit frost, probably till the end of frost. You can deadhead them a little bit if you want to clean them up, but they've been a really low maintenance plant for us, and we've been really happy with how they've performed. And they perform very similarly, but less aggressively than that blue mistflower. So they're not going to have the same host plant benefits as the native mistflower, but if you want some of the pollinator benefits and a little bit more of a controlled plant, you can go for the annual Ageratum, especially this Blue Horizon, which gets a little bit taller and similar form as the blue mistflower. Or if you have an area that's a little bit more naturalized, turning back to our blue mistflower here, because this is a space specifically for pollinators where we're fine if these plants spread, this has been a really successful situation for this plant. And so if you have those conditions, that's why you should plant blue mistflower. You can find it here in our native section at Colonial Gardens.